Well, hello everybody. Here's Gary Orner from Orner Exotics. Let's wait a few minutes before see if anybody comes in, and then we will go from there.
I think the Madison Herp study advertised for me.
Oh, did he?
Yeah,
That's cool.
um, yeah, I'm going to get more involved with the Madison Herp Society. They're just good people. I mean, Ryan and Erica just you can't ask for two better people, honestly.
No,
They're just amazing.
there's still a few really good people out there. I could tell you that. Um, Justin's in here. Blackbird's in here. Hit the like button, everybody, so that way it gets out. And we'll see how many people come in. Takes a few minutes. Sometimes there'll be a few people in here. Wally Kern is in here. Wally, how are you doing? Did you see Wally's video today?
I watched a lot of Wally stuff. I'm addicted to Wally's videos.
So am I. I'm totally addicted to him. It's crazy. I can watch him all day. He did one on crested geckos today. It was very, very informative. So
I think Wally's going to be hitting 10,000 subscribers here very, very quickly. And then it's going to be 50,000. Then it's going to be 100,000. He's going to get one in plaques.
Yeah, it's coming.
I can't wait. I can't wait till he gets that plaque. He deserves it.
Yes, he's very his stuff is so informative. It's crazy. And he teaches as he does the videos. Sorry, I was looking at something. He teaches as he does the videos, so that makes such a difference in the world. You know, he's got what over 5,000 now. So before, like you said, before you know it, it'll be 50 and 100,000. So he'll take off.
Oh, for sure. He talks on everyone's level. He makes it understandable to the people that never been in part of the hobby, and then he talks to people like us that we know what's going on, but we're still learning. We're like, whoa, I never knew that.
Yeah.
Wally's the one that turned me on to giving UVB and UVA to all animals.
Oh yeah,
it was Wally. And how I approach it, and when someone asks me, he goes, "Does leopard geckos need UVA and UVB?" And I'm like, "Well, they'll benefit from it. That's my new way. They'll benefit if you give it to them. It's not going to hurt them at all." And I should post some pictures of people that sent me the gecko setups and stuff.
And he doesn't think any question's like a dumb question either. No. So he definitely he takes his time with everything. So that's why I like Wally Kern's channel. I think I've watched every single one of his videos. Every single one.
I'm not going to be ashamed of this. I've watched some of them 2 or 3 times.
So have I.
And watch you guys, if you guys are watching and you really support that channel, watch the advertisements all the way through. Don't hit skip. It actually helps them out more.
Yes.
It actually helps them out more. So I'll sit there and I'll hit it and I'll just watch the ad. I'll sit there and okay.
Yeah, cool. Why not? And if you find it interesting and it's something you would really like, click it. Yeah. No, don't skip the ads. I don't skip the ads. And once you start a video, even if you don't like the video, finish the video because that makes a difference on the channel algorithms. It's very, very important.
Yeah, watching all the way through. The likes help. The commenting help. I mean, even dislikes help. Seriously, they do, because you got an action on that video.
Yeah, well, see, like Wally just said, the money he gets from the ads and stuff goes right back into his giveaways and stuff. So it's technically you're helping yourself by getting a chance to win anyway. So
can anyone think of the 12 days of Christmas that Wally does? That is so amazing.
Oh, I won it like his second year he had it up. I won one thing like the third weekend.
Oh, that's awesome.
The third day. It was great. The third day, and I loved it.
See, so I'm telling you guys, if everyone stuck together, and I really feel this in Wisconsin, is the people in Wisconsin stick together, and you don't see the fighting and competition really. I mean, like when I'm at a show, I'll send people to Wally, I'll send people to Dan, I'll send someone to Miles.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter who it is. We all work together because I might not have everything you want, No. And if you're telling me, oh, you want, red crested geckos or Dalmatians and this and that, well, Wally's got some amazing stuff, or micro geckos. Let's go. And You can ask Wally. I've walked people through their tables. I'll walk people over there and introduce them. It's just,
yeah. Well, that's the thing. People, they just seem not to. They always think of everybody as a competition. Well, if you don't do that, there's, like they say, enough pie to go around for everybody. If you stick together, quit your bickering, and just help people out, even if it's something you have and they want to see something different, you can show someone else another table, because that'll come back to you someday. So always help everybody. I don't know why people just can't stick together. I don't know. You're an older guy like me through the 35 years of this whole industry. I've seen some pretty nasty stuff go down back in the day compared to what goes on now. And they need to open up and help everybody.
And I'm sad to say this, but I'm not. Through the podcast I'll be doing, I've got like 4 already recorded. I'm going to let you guys in on some of this stuff. I was lucky enough to some of these big breeders that are there now. I worked with them back in the late 90s, early 2000s. I was there. And then I got stories of people being upset that I succeeded. You'll never see that out of me. I want every single soul to succeed, reach your goals, breed everything. If I sell you an animal and you beat me to a morph, awesome. It's just awesome. And I'm going to tell you guys some good things. There's only one podcast I got coming up that is really hard for me to record. And I might actually try to re-record it because of my voice. Other than that, a lot's going to come out in this podcast that I have how to deal with, anger and people putting you down, how to overcome that, and how to go after what you want. Because some people don't know, I used to put down 4-leggers. I was a snake guy. I was 100% snake guy. I dealt with cobras to corn snakes. And if you said, here's a leopard gecko, I don't want that 4-legger. They'd bring $1,000 leopard geckos to trade for something of mine. I'm like, I don't want it. Seriously, that's what I did.
Yeah. No, I've been there. I watch. I've been around for a long time too. But like you were talking on your last podcast that I listened to about flipping, and they, even 15 years ago, they really, really talked down about flippers. I mean, they would go crazy on it. But back in the 90s or the 80s, not many people bred stuff. It was more flipping. Like they would have a few guys would breed the stuff and then give it, and then people would pick it up and then they would sell it for a profit.
Flipping turned bad because of a reason. And I can hit on this a little bit. It's going to be in my next few podcasts, but I'll hit on it. Flipping the hobby was built on the flip. People imported animals. Then there was people that went to these. Well, there weren't shows right away, and they just kind of called and said, I got this and got this. Well, Don Hamper created the first reptile show. If you don't know, the very first one in Columbus, Ohio. They used to meet in the basement of a house. And I wasn't part of that. Don Hamper was a personal friend of mine. And then when they did that, people would call these people importing and get these animals and they would start going to these little expos. And the public started becoming aware of this, and they didn't breed those animals. They bought them. They were well caught. And so where the flip happened is, and I think I was really, really one of the big people that made people upset about flipping. And the reason is I was buying animals off of the breeders, going to the same show. And I'll give you a pastel ball python, for instance. Back then, I was selling for about $150 to $200. The person that produced it would have pastels on their table for $100, and I would outsell them, selling them at $200. That's what people were getting upset about, because they were saying flippers are trying to make more money.
Mm-hmm.
But then they would turn around and say, we're Bush League. There's that Bush League again. We'll be talking about that in my podcast. We're not about the money. Then why worry about the market? The flipper's not the one putting down the market. I'm charging more money than you are as a breeder. And I argued this. And another example is people that sell venomous snakes. There are not that many people that breed venomous snakes.
Mm-mm.
There's not. So when you go to like Hamburg and you see 30 people have venomous snakes on there, maybe 3 of them produce what they have on their table.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah, agree.
And so these people would be selling venomous snakes and go online and start typing like flippers suck, because they were ball python breeders too. But at Hamburg, if you had venomous, you were on that venomous side. You got to get on that venomous side. So you wanted some venomous snakes on your table, because that's where everyone went.
Mm-hmm.
The flip is what keeps the market good because I mean, as a breeder, I could actually kill the leopard gecko market. I could breed charcoals and black knights and get 200 of them and sell them for $50 a piece. The market would be gone.
Yep.
It wouldn't be hard for me because I'm a larger producer. So instead of me doing that, if I needed money, I would talk to someone and say, hey, I got some black knights. I need to wholesale some off. I'm selling to them. They're going to sell them and try to make money. So if I sell the black knights for $400 a piece and they're going for $800, they're probably going to want to double their money and sell them for $600 to $800. So people that put down the flippers are the ones that they were just trying to up themselves, saying, I produce. But let's be honest, guys, how hard is it to breed a leopard gecko or a ball python?
I always say you could teach anyone, a kid,
to
breed a ball python.
I was getting put down by, we talked about the Bush League a couple nights ago.
Yep.
I was getting put down by Larry and BT left and right because I flipped ball pythons. I bought out collections. I bought them all, but I was sitting there producing boom slings. They couldn't do that if they tried.
No.
I was producing different types of rattlesnakes at the time, producing gaboon vipers. So I was taking species that you couldn't produce, that you actually had to know what you were doing. And they're putting me down because I'm flipping ball pythons that I could teach a 5-year-old to do.
I'll tell you another thing that happened, like during the 80s, okay? Like the store, we would get in a whole big crate of ball pythons. A bunch of them would be dead, of course, and then they would have like mites and stuff, and you'd have to work on that. But a big thing that happened was people would come in and buy these. Like you would have your regulars that would come in and buy a whole bunch of them. But they would take them, and then some of them wouldn't even make it because, they just come from over in Africa and all that stuff. And the flipping got a lot of bad name because they were thinking that you were selling bad animals. But that's a chance you take when you order a big crate of 800 snakes in,
I used to get gravid ball pythons in.
Yeah.
That was a thing. I don't know if it still is, but I used to get gravid ball pythons in because you never knew what was going to hatch out of those. I would get the eggs, get the female eating, sell them. They were wild caught. They were clean. They were eating. But I would keep them eggs, and I would hatch them eggs up. They're all normal. Sell them off for $20, whatever they were going for at the time. The people that talk about, no wild caught, no this, if it wasn't for some of this stuff happening, you wouldn't have the animals here. And
nothing. And it's still happening to this day.
Oh, yeah.
They're just not saying it.
There's morphs that pop up. The ball python market, there's morphs. There is actual farms overseas, and most of them probably know this, that they know what to look for now. They're like, hey, look, this looks a little different. We want more money for this. This looks a little different. I want more money for this. I can give a story about the ball python market where I know for a fact that a ball python like that caused a friendship to break, and that was the viper ball. The viper ball didn't prove out. Someone thought, now I say viper ball, you know who I'm talking about, but I don't want to say the name. But another person thought that it did prove out, and he wanted in on a project, but it didn't. I held the viper ball in my hand. I know what it was. And it didn't prove out, but the sunset did. And the story goes, the sunset, he didn't think proved out. And I think he's even put that out. So the story goes... And now people are going to be like, what? If you bought ball pythons from me in the 2004, 2005 at the Indianapolis show, Columbus show, or Cleveland show, and they were all captive bred ball pythons, they were probably either from the Viper Project or Sunset Project. Because we didn't think it proved out. They kind of filtered their way to me, and I knew which ones were Viper Project and Sunset. All of them were Sunset. So are any of them around anymore? No, but they came directly from that project. I know for a fact.
I often think back, and I often say to myself, I wonder how many of the ball pythons that we used to get into the store were something that nobody even realized. Thousands of these ball pythons coming in and going out the door and wondering I wonder how many of them were actually something different, and that like a kid would buy and didn't even know that they had something special on their hands.
I do that a lot with leopard geckos now. I'm a genetic freak when it comes to leopard geckos. I keep track of everything. So when I sell a leopard gecko, if you keep the ID number, I know what it is. But when I wholesale leopard geckos, I have a different price point for ones that you won't know the genetics to. And there's reasons. Like it'd be like I tested out an NDBE. I bought an NDBE female before. I honestly did not know that the females didn't produce. And I started reading up on it, and John Scarborough helped me out. He was like, Gary, that don't look like an NDBE. So I contacted Frank from in the UK, and he says, it doesn't look like NDBE. They said it looks Eclipse. And I'm like, but it doesn't. So I bred it to an Eclipse, produced no Eclipse. So now it comes down to two. It's either Marble Eye or NDBE. But the thing is, it's a female, and female NDBEs don't produce eggs. So I either have a Marble Eye, and I don't have Marble Eye in my collection. So I've talked to Miles, and I'm either going to borrow a Marble Eye male from him, or I'm going to purchase a Marble Eye male just to produce that, because I have a lot of Eclipse in my stuff. I only have 2 lines that have no Eclipse in it. But I sell the pet stores all the time and say, here, these are 10 animals. I tell you what they visually are. Bye. I do it all the time.
Yeah, that's it's strange how things work out, and people, like you said, people, they just don't understand it. I do have you were telling me some of the stuff that you keep and you breed and stuff like that, and the animals you work with. Before we get into that, I do have another question for you. Now that the virus that's going around, I don't want to say it because they try to give you a hard time on your channel, I guess, about it. And they're starting to lock stuff down again. Schools are closing, and they're not going to get together. How do you think that's going to affect the hobby now in an up and coming year? It didn't seem to do too much last year because people still were able to sell their stuff. But I personally, my personal opinion, I think it's going to slowly start impacting because
if people are home, they're going to buy online. People are nature, they want to spend money.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as they're working, they'll spend their money. Essential workers will have money still.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's going to affect the people that just do reptile expos. I struggle to sell online, and the reason is I can't find time to go take pictures, get them put up on the line, take care of the websites and all this. This new job I'm doing is going to help me out there. But at expos, I'll move 50, 60 geckos in one day. And I'm like, oh, there we go. Cool. That's going to hurt the people that just do expos. I honestly think that the market online is going to stay strong. I think leopard geckos are going to be something strong. Crested geckos, your isopods, stuff small. Are the big stuff going to be? No, they're going to be hard to get food for. Mice and rats are going to get harder to get food for. The mealworm thing's done. I've been getting from Rainbow for over a month and a half, 2 months now. I shouldn't say that. I'm pretty sure it's to the public too, guys. I'm almost positive. I'm going to get a call from Jillian saying Gary, but I don't think it's going to affect anything. I think that I'm going to go full go this year. I'm going full go. I'm going to produce everything I can. It should be around, if every female takes, which it's not going to happen. It'll be around 2,000 baby leopard geckos. I think I'm more reasonable. It's going to be around 1,500 because I'll go to a female and I'll be like, she doesn't look right, or everything's got to be perfect or they don't breed.
So you don't think it's even going to push the price down on stuff or nothing? No.
Oh no! If people are spending money, us breeders raise the price.
Of course, oh,
yeah. If I'm selling Tremper albinos and I see that, oh my lord, I'm selling out every week, I'm going to raise the price because I don't want to run out. I want to spread that out because we have a cost. All us breeders have a cost. We got food coming in, electric bills, all this, and we're just like you guys. We spend money when we get it. So
just remember us guys that are going to be trying to buy some stuff from you.
Oh, like I said, I am very different than other people. I'll hold stuff. Like I did the auction for the Madison Herp Society. I donated some animals to it. and two of my groups of animals already went out before I went on my vacation, and there's two here still. And he's just not ready because he bought the one gecko and he wants another one from me, and he just doesn't. I'm like, I'll hold them, not a big deal. They're just sitting it, not a big deal. I'm very laid back. It's not a big deal. I'll hold animals like you want an animal, whatever. You can sit there. I don't think like that. I don't think like, oh, you're hurting my business. I don't think like that. I'll hold animals for people. I don't care.
I would do the same thing. Wally Kern did have a question for you.
Yeah.
He said, now snake or gecko, either treats or you could talk about them both. What animal have you seen that made you stop and say, wow?
A lot of geckos this year have, not that I produced, but a lot of geckos, like the other species of geckos. But the biggest wow that I've ever had in my life was the very first time I had a king cobra in front of me. I was a venomous guy, and this is going to be in my podcast a little bit too. I handled venomous like there's no tomorrow. I was natural at it. And when I got the king cobra, I didn't own it. I dealt with it, and it made me step back and go, whoa, it's a different animal. And then the other animal was a crocodile monitor. Seeing them one-on-one in front of you, they think they're thinking in their head, and I'm not even making that up. A full-size crocodile monitor, if it's not calm and used to you, it will hurt you.
I've seen this guy had can't remember what his name is, but he's got a YouTube channel. Is it Toothless? No, it might be Toothless. Toothless Reptiles or something. Anyway, he built these enclosures with doors on it, and the crocodile monitor used to watch him open the door. It was a screen door, solid glass screen door. Would watch him open the door, and how to open the door. He had to actually put locks on there because the crocodile monitor, he would have it on video, would walk over after he left and shut the lights off and climb up and pull the handle down and get out. Figured it out. Animals.
I've always wanted a crocodile monitor, but I'm honest, I can't house one. They need so much space.
They're very big. They need a lot of area. I know that. Yeah.
And that's one of my dream animals. I do want a king cobra. I do have some stuff in the works for venomous again. I got a lot of venomous friends. They're like, Gary, just tell me and we'll fill you up. That's what they tell me.
Stevie wanted to know, do you have a website?
I do have a website. It's Orner Exotics. I have a lot of websites, and that's a surprise, so I'll hit it now. Orner Exotics is getting rebuilt. It's almost done, and I'll probably launch it in the next 7 days. I also own a site called reptiledeal.com, or reptideal.com. It's the new classifieds. I'm almost done with that. I coded it from scratch. The reptileroom.org is a social media site. It's just like Facebook. And it's owned by me, so you guys can sell animals, do whatever you want on there, create pages.
I like that site.
It's going to take time to build, but more people are on it and share and do this and that. It's just like Facebook. Then let's see what else I got. Oh man, I got that GaryOrner.com is going to be starting. I'm going to be blogging, put my photography up on there. But OrnerExotics.com is the main one. If you go there now, you can see a little bit of it because I was testing it out. I'm a stickler of coding my own stuff, but I'm also one that codes it, and I get tired of the project, I move to something else. I'll start that, and then I'll go back to it. Sometimes I'm multitasking. Like, I'm training for a new job, and it's going to give me more time. And when I'm on these Zoom training calls, I kind of know what they're talking about. I'm coding or doing photography at the same time. I swear to God.
Multitasking.
Yeah, so the websites are going to be coming out pretty quick. And I also have reptileviews.com. Reptileviews.com is where I'm putting my podcast. The site's not 100% done with the graphics I want, but I'm hosting all my podcasts there. And if you guys want to know the last 25 years of the hobby, I'm releasing a lot of stuff, like talking about a lot of stuff.
I know. I listened to your last podcast. Excellent podcast. I liked it. But I'll tell you, the one animal that made me actually go wow was first, I remember when Bob Clark came out with the albino Burmese python, and I was like, wow, that's pretty freaking cool. But the one that actually made me go, wow, was the albino reticulated python. When I first saw that and Bob Clark showed that to me, I was like, holy crap. I was like, wow, because the colors really popped on those. I mean,
Retics and
yeah.
Burm are totally different animals too.
Yep. Yes.
If you get a retic person, most of the time they'll say, I hate dealing with Burmese pythons. And then vice versa. Retics are movers. They move, 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 move. Burmese pythons are just big logs. And they sit there.
I always compare it to like a snake with ADHD can't sit still, man. They got to be moving. And they think. Retics really, really do think things out. Very highly intelligent. I mean, they might not be smart as like a cobra or nothing, but they're up there.
And Pumpkin said, Tom Crutchfield's a friend of mine. A lot of people, some people don't like Tom Crutchfield, but Tom has done a lot of bad. He admits it, and he's changed. But I don't think there's anyone that's better in dealing with animals one-on-one.
What the hobby wouldn't be anywhere where it's at today if it wasn't.
Not even close. It wouldn't even be what it is.
No, I talked to Tom and I interviewed him on one of my shows, and I asked him, I says, is there anything you ever regret doing? And he said, absolutely not. He would do it all over again. Because exact same way.
What he did is it laid the foundation for what we have right now. I mean, it wouldn't be close. Tom Crutchfield played a very, very huge part in what the hobby is today.
Yeah, absolutely.
People to slam him. Understand that people do wrong in their life, but it leaves the footsteps to where we are. So Tom Crutchfield's good people. Always defend him. The guy just knows animals. I mean, who else can walk up to a croc monitor and a croc monitor walks up to him and says, hey, it's like a dog. I'm like, really? I mean, seriously. And Wally asked, do I build my own racks? I was just talking to Andy about this.
Yeah.
Yep. I do have some racks downstairs that I don't, but I'm building my own racks coming up. I'll be able to put the heat where I want it. And I'll be able to build the configuration what I want. And to tell you the truth, Wally, it was your videos that made me decide to build.
Yeah, I have to agree. Wally does a great job with his rack systems he does. Justin, Mr. J, wanted to know, is there any gecko or snake that you choose to pass on?
The lychees, I haven't gone to lychees yet because of the size. They take up a lot of room. For geckos and fat tails, there's a reason I haven't done fat tails. I've gotten them in and I sell them, and that's because I don't like crickets. I don't like pinworms and stuff like that. Crickets, I don't care how clean you say your crickets are or anyone else. They do carry parasites more than mealworms. And also, they have to eat more crickets than mealworms because crickets just don't have nutrition. And fat tails I've talked to some of the best fat tail breeders in the world and said, how can I keep my mealworms? All of them say at a year old, they usually stop and they go to crickets. So there's that. And then snake wise, I'll give a story. Al Karitz, Viper Keeper on YouTube. He's a family to me. Like he's family.
Yep. I love Al.
But I was at the Hamburg show and a breeder there, Mike, he had inland taipans. And I picked them up and Mike said, just pay me later, Gary, because that's how we are. We knew each other. So I had him and I was carrying these inland taipans in my hand. And Al stopped me and said, you'll die. Because he knew there was no AV in the country at the time. I dealt with boom slings and stuff like this, and I had cobras, but the inland taipans was a different level at the time. And Al said, if you want to deal with them, come over to my house and you could deal with them there. So I stayed away from the Australian species. I never owned an Australian species of venomous snake.
Yeah, they're again, different level.
My boom slings, though, I'm one of the very few crazy people in the United States that had boom slings, and I will have them again.
Yeah, boom slings are cool. Stevie said his dream is to have a retic, but Stevie, just from personal experience, I mean, I've been bit in the face and the neck. If you don't have experience with first a bigger type of animal and one that moves as quick as a retic, and if you don't spend enough time with them, they get moody, and they definitely need some mental stimulation. They're not like put them in a cage and leave them there. No, they need to have interactions, or
Go
they
listen. Go listen to my podcast I put out last Sunday. I talk about a Burmese python about 13 feet-ish or so that bit me, and it was a feed response, not an attack. It was a feed response, and I'm lucky to be alive. With large constrictors, a large constrictor, in my opinion, is more dangerous than venomous snakes. If you do venomous snakes right, you should have your own AV, a protocol book, and everything. You get to the hospital, you should live, unless it's something like a gaboon, some of the Australian species and stuff like that, or you have an allergic reaction. If you get suffocated by a large snake, you're dead. There's no ifs and buts about it.
Yeah, and you have to have, when you're working with a big animal like that, you should definitely have two people available.
Oh,
definitely a 2-person thing.
And I always tell people when you deal with venomous snakes, same thing. Make sure someone else is, around or knows you're working with them. Don't be me. I got some stories you guys are going to hear about, but like my rattlesnakes, I mean, my old YouTube videos, I had to talk louder because all the rattling in my background. I had over 50, 60 rattlesnakes in that room at a time. And the room was 12 by 12.
Yeah, it could be and people do things without thinking too. You might work with the animal 1,000 times and you get complacent, and that's all it takes. One mistake and you could regret it forever.
Yeah, my buddy Ray Hunter, he almost lost his life to an Eastern Diamondback. This was 10 years ago, 12 years ago. I mean, it was to the point where friends were calling each other, and we thought it was over. And if you don't know who Ray Hunter is, he self-injects venom and stuff like that. Don't try that at home. Don't. But Ray Hunter's a really good friend of mine, but he was bit on the hand by an Eastern Diamondback, and he almost lost his life.
Crazy. Wally said, a younger you, what is 2 pieces of advice you would give yourself to a younger you as it comes into keeping reptiles?
Don't buy impulsively. And the other thing is, I know that I put it out there, don't sell alligators. I probably sold more alligators in Ohio than anyone else in the time. I mean, I'm talking hundreds. When it's in my podcast I released, I sold a lot of alligators, and I looked at the money, and I would say money doesn't matter. Do what's right.
Okay, let's touch on this a minute, okay? Because we used to sell stuff like that too, like alligators, caimans, you name it. Why do you think people shouldn't be selling alligators? If you don't mind me asking, why they all die?
They all die. There's 99.9% of people in the hobby cannot have an alligator. And it's not, they can't have it because of law. You can't house it. Me and the Madison Herp Society now are dealing with this left and right. And we, Sarah would contact me. We had an alligator that was, I believe it was like 4 foot. And the lady wanted money for it. We're like, no, it's going to cost us money to ship this out. And my contacts now are telling me no, they don't want it anymore. I contacted Terry Phillips today. I'm trying to start something in Wisconsin. I'm in the beginning stages. I want to do a sanctuary reptile zoo, something. And I don't care about the money so much. I don't care. And maybe I can house some of this stuff where people, instead of buying it, they can come to my place and see it. Maybe that'll help. Terry Phillips owns Reptile Gardens, for people to know. But I
very good guy.
Literally just messaged him earlier, asking him if I can ask for some help, because he's in South Dakota, still up north. It gets cold, and we're in Wisconsin. I want to know how he's, keeping this and that. And
I like Terry. He's a very good guy.
Yeah.
Now, that's like even with when we used to sell caimans in the store. They weren't like dwarf caimans, they were just regular caimans. These people would get these home and they would come back in a few months and they would have this big caiman that was bigger than their 55-gallon tanks or whatever size tanks they had it in. That, you get bit by a caiman, it's a pretty good bite. I don't care what anybody says, it can be a pretty serious bite.
I had some kid in Milwaukee. I don't want to mention his name because he does watch the lives and stuff. And if he's here, I won't mention name, but he argued me forever that he knew what he was doing. And he had this 4-foot alligator, 125-gallon tank. 125-gallon tank is not nothing to a 4-foot alligator. Mm-hmm. The gator had a food response and bit his hand. First person he called was me. And here he's in Milwaukee. And I'm like, I can't come pick it up. I just can't do that right to say. He wanted it gone, like now, wanted it gone. And we worked it out. And we worked it out where it's down south now. I don't let my people that take these animals info out that much because I don't want them flooded and them coming yelling at me. And he learned the hard way. And I wish they would learn the right way. And I wish we could stop these. To give an example, a friend of mine that runs reptile shows, expos, someone posted on there and he had a handful of alligators and says, "Oh, I wish I would have brought more." It made my stomach hurt. It literally did. It was like, do you know how much money I spend to get, find homes for these alligators? And I'm all for owning animals. I'm all for it if you do it right. But I can't even own an alligator. I can't house it.
No, they need a lot of room. They get big. People don't understand. Alligators can get huge depending upon if it's male or female, but they can get big.
I talked to the new zoo. The new zoo has an alligator, an albino. And I'm like, you guys aren't housing this right. You guys aren't housing your snow leopard right. And I would, if the new zoo would offer me a job where I could actually just pay my bills, I would go there and try to figure all this out for them. And like the wake up call I had was I went to the San Diego Zoo just recently, and the enclosures at the San Diego Zoo are so much different than anywhere I've seen. They have these massive, huge cages and so much stuff to interact with. It's not just a pool of water. I would love to work at the zoo, and I contacted a friend of mine that works in a zoo in Illinois. I contacted him. I said, "How can I get in there?" And he says, "Garrett, it's so hard, and the money is not good." That's what he told me. And I'm like, I went in though. I get me in there, and the Brian's good people though. No, it's not Brian B from Michigan. His name's Brian. He's in Illinois. He takes care of the zoo. He posts pictures all the time.
Justin wanted to know whether venomous or big constrictors, as far as getting experience, what advice do you have for getting that type of experience?
Big constrictors, I always tell people, if you're going to get big constrictors, and it's kind of hard to tell you how to get a starter snake, though, because you should get the snake that you want, because you're never going to put the care into something just because you're starting. But boa constrictors are excellent, larger snakes. They're a mid-sized snake. You can get like just a regular Colombian boa. There's so many different locales, too. You can get Nicaraguan. They're all BCI. Nicaraguan boas are awesome. Central American. They all have a little different size, but that is an excellent snake because they're movers and they think. Venomous wise, I tell you, work with someone else's snakes. Seriously. And I'm a true believer. You should have your own AV on hand, protocol books. Your doctor should know that you have venomous, because I'm going to tell you this right now. If you are bit, that you know more, or you should know more about that bite and what to do than the doctor does at the hospital. The doctor's going to say, oh, it's a cobra bite. That's what they're going to do. So working with someone else's and having a protocol book for every species that you have, you should know the species inside and out. Venomous is a great part of the hobby. But don't do what I did. It's on my podcast. Don't do what I did. I was friends with all these venomous people, and I was sent mangroves 2 boom slings, a waggler eye, and pygmy rattlesnakes, and I never touched a venomous snake in my life.
Yeah.
That was my first ones.
Yeah. See.
And if now all of them but the boom sling, I would probably have been fine. I mean, I've been bit by a mangrove. I got a scar on my arm. If you guys ever see me at a show, I'll show it to you. But if that boom sling would have got me, there was no AV in the United States at the time. I would have died. There's no, and it's a slow death. So
over a period of days.
Yeah, I would have been literally writing my will as I know I was going to die.
And there's no guarantee. There is no guarantee that they'll ever even have anti-venom if you don't have your own.
Yeah.
Because there's no guarantee they'll be able to get it. But I'll tell you another thing that they like to do. Like if you get bit by like something like a rattlesnake of some sort, first thing they want to do with swelling is do a fasciotomy, and that's not always necessary. So you need to have your protocols on what to do when you get there, because they just go do what doctors do. You know, we'll cut this open, it'll be fun.
I wish if everything goes good, I'll get Ray Hunter on for us and stuff. Ray Hunter's a really good friend of mine. He'll talk about that stuff, and he's really open about it. I got to learn from some of the top people, and I'm friends with a lot of the top people, like Brian Fry.
Yep, Brian Fry's awesome.
Brian and I go back 12, 13 years. Some people think he's a jerk, but he's always been nice to me.
He's been nice to me too.
He's always been nice to me. Like some people think Al's a jerk, and Al's like my family.
Do you know why people think Al's a jerk?
He's straightforward.
He tells you the way it is. If he doesn't think you should have an animal, he's gonna say you're gonna be stupid. You'll be dead. Don't get that animal. You know.
And he's done it to me.
And people are like, wait a minute. You can't talk to me that way. And he's like, well, be an idiot. You know, I'll tell you, Al and I had this conversation about hognose snakes. Now, a lot of people think hognose snakes are not venomous animals, but if you listen to Al and listen to the stuff that he talks about, they are. And he will tell you, you know, you get a good-sized hognose snake, bites a little kid, there's going to be trouble.
Yeah, there'd be swelling and stuff.
He showed me a file
that had a bunch of bad bites on it.
Oh, that people's skin was falling off.
Yeah, I would say personally that the Eastern is worse than the Western.
Yeah, see, now I didn't know that.
That's my personal opinion, but Westerns tend to not bite out of aggression, but they do that feed bite. If it makes sense, they'll be cruising around and they'll bite. Easterns tend to be more, aggressive. But at the same time, anything venomous, even when Madison Herb Society had the false water cobra at the Green Bay show, and I'm holding it because they knew, they're like, oh, it's Gary. I would have never handed that to a kid.
No, never.
I would have never said, here's a false water cobra. Here you go. And now false water cobra, will it kill you? No. I mean, but at the same time, you got to be responsible and know what's what.
They call them plains garters, plains hognose now. They got rid of the western part. But false water cobras, you talk about them. I've seen a study done where they actually killed a mouse very quickly with false water cobra venom.
It's a delivery system. Well,
it's
a delivery system, just like mangrove snakes. People think mangroves aren't that venomous. Drop for drop, they'll hurt you.
Oh, yes.
It's their delivery system. The mangrove and your false waters have very small fangs, very small groove fangs. But if I took a head of a boom sling, they got longer fangs than a cobra. Their fangs are very long and they're still grooved, but their venom can be pumped out more. A mangrove has to really chew, and they think chewing is the cut. No, they're massaging that area to get the venom out as much as possible. But drop for drop, the venom's nasty stuff.
Like Marita said, you can develop an allergy towards like Western hognoses and stuff like that just from the venom. But I was talking about developing an allergy. I was watching a gentleman a documentary on a gentleman who kept a lot of cobras in his basement. He had spitting cobras, and you have to clean the cages, and you end up breathing that dry stuff in all the time. And he got bit by the cobra, and within 2 minutes, he was out because he had developed an allergy to the venom from just breathing it in over the course of years of working.
Very much so. Yeah. That's why they say spinning cobras is one of them. You know, I'm lucky enough I don't develop allergies that easy like people with mealworms. I take them, it don't bother me, and I've been doing it for years, and it doesn't bother me. The venomous hobby is very tight knit. I want to say that the old school people were really, really tight knit, and then there's this new group coming up, and they're not welcome in. And someone, I don't know who it was, posted something like, the old school people say this, and they're shooting a person, and it was a new hobby.
I've seen that.
and I'm like, well, it's not that. It's that we don't agree with what they're doing. They're going backwards. They're doing what we did when we were younger, and we learned from it, and they're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And like free handling venomous snakes is something that you shouldn't do. You shouldn't have to do. Raymond Hoser hates me. You guys don't know who Raymond Hoser is. He's a guy out of Australia. He cuts the venom glands out of snakes. So,
yes, Justin, they are rear fanged. Justin wanted to know if hognoses were rear fanged. Yes, they are.
Yeah, they're clutch.
Now, here's something that a lot of people don't realize. Garter snakes also have fangs. My aunt picked one up off the ground and got bit in the hand, and her arm swelled up. And this is before I knew much about them. And then I did some research, and they do have fangs, and they do have a mild toxic little thing going on too.
Yeah, a lot of snakes do. Dr. Fry is the one that put out the reports that certain monitors are venomous.
Yes.
So what we know and what we think we know isn't what is true. I always tell people you don't know what you don't know. So, you know, if to give you an example, if you didn't know 2 + 2 was 4, you just don't know that. So if someone comes to you and says 2 + 2 is 4, and you say, no, it's not. Well, you didn't know in the first place. No one ever taught you. So they're teaching you now. So if you keep an open mind, just like when Wally talked to me about UVA and UVB, do leopard geckos need it? No. But will they benefit from having it? Very much so. Or how about the people that say leopard geckos can't be on sand? They can be on sand. The reason that people mess up on sand is how they feed the animal. It has nothing to do with the sand. They're like, oh, they'll lick the sand. Did you put calcium sand in there? Well, yeah. Well, that's the issue.
Yeah.
If you go out and get regular sand, it's going to be totally fine because nature doesn't need us to teach it new ways.
No.
Nature knows what it's doing. And I still tell people, because I get people, oh, you shouldn't put any gecko on sand. Well, why? Why not? So I don't know who posted it either. They put a paper towel on the floor. It might have been, I forget who did it. Put a paper towel and like a little hide that was made from a butter tub or something, and said they found a gecko in the wild. And I'm like, oh God, that was great. And I tell people the best way to keep animals is research their natural history.
That's what I said too. Research, repeat where they're from. You're fine.
People ask how I bred mangroves, and that's exactly what I did. I literally made their cage what it was, where they're from. And like to the T. If it was stormy there, I was making it mist. I was storming and all that good stuff. And now I couldn't do the pressure. There is a pressure in the air. I couldn't do that, but I tried to do everything else. And I bred mangroves. Now mangroves are bred all the time. So they do it in tubs. I wish I could get away from tubs, but on my production level, I can't with leopard geckos.
I watched an individual yesterday start getting rid of their bioactive enclosures. I don't know if you saw that. Now, the reason he's got rid of his bioactive enclosures, he has these leaf-tailed geckos, and he got rid of all his, what he had, like 18 or 20 bioactive enclosures just for these leaf-tailed geckos, and he went back to plastic plants and plastic tubs, and he says the reason he did that is he can keep it, even though he had bioactive in there and like cleanup crews and stuff. He felt he can keep them cleaner if he was able to do it himself and keep issues down. Like he says, you could take a whole plant and soak it, clean it, and put it back, because it's plastic, where you can't do that with natural plants. It's easier to keep it clean.
I agree to an extent, but it's kind of hard to say. All wild caught animals have fauna in their stomach and their gut.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we weaken the animal by taking all that out. And then we put them in tubs and we put them in this and we make sure everything's perfect. And then we breed the weak because it looks cool. I just had a talk with someone online and I just backed off. Sometimes geckos don't have egg tooths and they can't hatch.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know if that's a genetic thing. It could be genetic. Everything that's different about a gecko could be a genetic trait.
Yes, it was Wally. He just posted something.
Oh, yeah. And so I told him, I'm like, I wouldn't breed that animal. That you saved it. They cut the egg, and I was on there like, don't cut gecko eggs because you'll kill geckos. You can't cut gecko eggs like ball pythons. You can't do it. And I got attacked. And I'm like, fine, whatever. Just I get it. It is what it is. And all morphs, your albinos, every single morph is a genetic flaw.
I was just going to say that. Yes,
it's a genetic flaw. So an albino let's say a bell albino might have a larger liver. So we're breeding this, and they're getting larger livers. Now we know that's not true with bell albinos right now, but I just used it. And this morph might have enlarged hearts or might have small hearts. And when we're breeding that, we're making that bad gene stronger. And we've seen it with lemon frost. Enigma. I still get people that tell me, and I'm not going to slam people that breed Enigma. I seen the worst of the worst. I invested a lot of money and I bred Enigma, and I morally said it can't be bred out. In my heart, you can't breed Enigma syndrome out. White and yellow has the same issue, they say. I don't believe that to 100%. I think people bred it with Enigma. And I think that kind of carryover. None of my white and yellows spin. None of my white and yellows have issues. Now, back in the day, before I lost my collection, I did have white and yellow that spun. 100%. But they didn't come from Matt Baronic. They didn't come from Sesabek. Sesabek's white and yellows didn't spin for me. And then John Scarborough has a really good write-up. If you guys want to go to geckoboa.com and read it, he's got a really good write-up on white and yellow syndrome. But NDBE has small eyes. They just do. They got small eyes. And everything that we like, the ball pythons, are genetic flaws.
Yes.
And we as humans control it. Like, I like the look of that, so I'm breeding for that. And we're looking at like, this is worth $400,000. It's still just a ball python or a leopard gecko. I was asked yesterday, what animal would I breed if it came down to money? What makes the most money? And I started telling them, like, inch for inch and cost, leopard geckos make more money, but people don't like putting in the work. Ball pythons are easier. Throw them in a tub, water them, feed them once a week, done, whatever.
They're a pet rock.
And but geckos, I could put 4 females in a tub that takes up half the CB70, and my females give me 14 to 20 eggs a piece. Who's getting more money? Especially when they're white and yellow bells and my selectively bred stuff. I'm going to get more money out of that area. But I stopped. And I was like, if you're doing it for the money, I wouldn't even start. This is not an investment thing. And he goes, why? And I'm like, because it's just not. You'll lose money. You got to do it because you love it. Okay. And literally, this person's never been in reptiles in his whole life. He thinks I'm rich because of reptiles. And I'm like, okay, you let me know when I'm rich.
Yeah, please. Now, like you talk about genetic flaws and stuff like that. Like you said, everything is a genetic flaw that's not normal. That's not a normal. You go back to like the caramel albino ball pythons, the kinking issues. That's nothing. They lower the temperatures. They incubate them at the different temperatures and all, and they can cut back on the a little bit of the kinking, but it's still there.
Mhm.
There's no real cure in it. You get into the black pastel, also
Duckbills.
kinks, duckbills. They get the duckbill, and you get into the leucistic Texas rat snakes. You get the bug eyes. I mean, it's a genetic flaw, and there's no getting around it.
I'll give you an example. I could have been in on the scaleless ball python right from the start. I could have been one of the first people that had it. It made me think. I'm like, scaleless ball python. What kind of issues could that have? And at the time, the person was breeding scale. Well, they still do scaleless corn snakes and Texas rats, and I'm just like, really? I mean, we're taking the physicality and taking something off the animal. That'd be like, I breed armless humans. I'm like, that's what I was thinking, and I'm really in a crossroad, and it's going to be on my podcast, one of the last episodes. I'm in a crossroad in my life that do I want to produce anymore, or do I want to do a sanctuary and zoo type thing and educate people?
A lot of people end up there. Right where you're at. A lot of people end up there.
And it's just, I'm a good salesman. I'm really good. I can talk to anybody. I can, and I refuse sales. And Wally can contest. I give animals away at shows too. It's not a money thing to me. It's not. I mean, it's just, I see where the hobby's going, and I see where some people are taking it, and I see where other people are taking it. I mean, I lost a friend in Brian Barczyk because I called him out on holding a venomoid in public and posted it. I called him out.
I've seen that picture.
Now, friends are supposed to call out friends, right?
You would think.
And I have not talked to him since that day. I've sat on Brian Barczyk's couch when something really terrible, and it's going to be in the podcast, happened to me, like really bad. And I sat on his couch, and him and Lori got me through it. And my family was welcome there. Brian wasn't even there. And a friend from Mexico came, and he knew who I was. He was like, Brian's not here, but you're here, Gary. And I gave him a tour of the place, of Brian Barczyk's place. And I haven't talked to him since the day I called him out on the venomoid thing. And the venomous world was mine. And that's the way I felt. And he was a friend of mine, and he knew how I felt about venomoids. And he posted that picture of that gaboon. Now, he's changed. What I've seen, he's changed, but he still hasn't ever talked to me. Brian Barczyk, other than that venom, I don't really have that much bad to say about him, because he does love the hobby. He does love animals. He does. Now, people are going to slam him and say he does this and that. The shock and awe, I agree. I agree. There's some things I don't agree with how he did it. But if you can get him one-on-one, he loves animals.
Just look at what happened when he went to the reptile gardens the other day. Did you see that?
Yeah, I knew that was going to happen.
You either like him or you don't. And that's one thing I've learned about Brian. And, he's an okay guy, but you had a different experience.
I understand where Terry's coming from. I don't even need to ask Terry about it. I know why he doesn't like the shock and awe. Mm-hmm. He doesn't like making animals bite him to get people to watch, or the blood pouring out of the arm on the whatever you call it, the picture on the YouTube to get people to watch. Mm-hmm. And Brian marketed himself to succeed on YouTube, and I couldn't do that. I couldn't do it that way. I would rather have 5,000 subscribers and be nobody and do it the way I believe in than go outside what I believe in to get 2 million subscribers.
Yeah.
Now, if Brian sat in front of me right now, would I talk to him? Well, yes. I mean, I've known him since I've been 16 years old.
Yeah, Brian's I
I'm 42. But I mean, that's the only thing I can think. And there's another friendship. It's going to be on the podcast that I lost. And I think it was because I produced something before he did. And I honestly feel that that's why, because I've talked to other people that know this person, and they say he stopped talking to me too because I did this, and they stopped talking to me when I did this. And I wish nothing bad on the person. I wish nothing. I hope everyone succeeds and rocks it.
You would think that people could look past that. Now, if you're good friends with somebody and somebody says something to you, even if it criticizes you to a point, you should be able to say, well, you know what? I understand where you're coming from. So,
Yeah, you, Wally, Miles, you guys come to me and say, Gary, you did this wrong. I'm like, oh, I would agree with you. Or I'd say, I don't agree. I think that this was right. But I would never not talk to you again. No. I would never do that. I'd be like, hey, we're good. We just agree to disagree. Or I'll learn from it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because that's why we're friends, is because I value your opinion and who you are. And
you get back to like just like that. That's where the Bush League kind of.
I'll tell you, you want to know what happened in Bush League? I'll tell you. I'm not even worried about it. I had TRR back in the day. It was one of the largest reptile websites in the world. The only ones bigger was Fauna Classifieds and King Snake. And I was big because of the War Room. I'm not proud of it, but the War Room would shut down. I guarantee everyone in the chat would probably run from the War Room. The War Room had stuff in it that I still won't repeat.
That's like the back porch of the Bush League.
Yeah. They did the back porch because of me.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I was the originator. Hell and Fauna is because of me. But none of them let go like I did. I said, I don't want to hear about it. There's no rules. There's no rules. You deal with what you post. But anyways, I had TRR, and I had an admin and a really good friend. He's still friends with me on Facebook, Pat, and he was a radio person. He did radio. And I said, I really want to do a radio show. And I talked about this for like 2 years. And Larry and BT did
Reptile Radio.
And got Nerd involved and Brian involved and all this. And I'm friends with Brian at this time. I'm like talking to Brian all the time and texting Brian and whatever. And I had herpradio.com. And I was doing Herp Radio, but none of these big breeders did mine because Larry and BT buttered them up. Mm-hmm. But I had Al Koritz and Ray Hunters and the venomous community and stuff. And I don't know if they felt threatened by me. I called into Reptile Radio and I congratulated them. I said, this is so awesome what you guys are doing. This is great. They would go and slam me because I flipped animals. And everyone's like, Gary's so good, though. He sells everything perfect. He's got perfect. Slam me.
You know, I'm going to tell you a story here, but before Wally's little comment disappears up here, he said genetic albino Australian knobtails, right, Gary? The genetic flaws, but
I want them so bad.
They're beautiful.
I do. The knobtail species is a dream species of mine, and I hope to have them. I'm waiting for Miles just to say, Gary, I'm selling one. I'm waiting.
Now, I'm going to also comment on Wally's comment. He said he loved the Bush League, but I'm going to tell you a story about the Bush League. Now, I was very tight with those guys. I had come in there. I was one of their first people on their forum and all that stuff, and I had made it up what they called their little ranks or whatever. But anyway, there was a gentleman on there. I don't remember what kind of ball python it was, but it was new to the market. They were selling them for like thousands of dollars each. And he had like a little collection going. He had like 4 of them, and then he had all the babies that they had produced. And his daughter, his little 5-year-old daughter, got cancer. And he had to go to whatever hospital they had to take her to, and he needed money. So what he did is he put them up for sale, and instead of charging $1,000, he wanted $300 a piece for him because he needed the money right then for his daughter.
I remember.
And do you know they completely tried to destroy that individual for being a market crasher? That's when I was like, wait a minute. And then I said something, and then of course, then I was on the outs because I said, this guy's daughter's got cancer. He's going to use the money for this. What? And you remember that now.
Mm-hmm.
And it went downhill from there. And then they didn't last long after that. I'd give them a good year, and they were done.
Well, here's how they got me. I used to do YouTube, and I used to be bigger than snake bites. I used to be Ralph Davis. This was before it was cool.
Well, Ralph Davis is awesome.
And I did a video of me going to pick up, about 700 corn snakes from my buddy Steve in New Jersey. And we did the road trip. We did Steve, and Steve was giving me all these animals, and I was selling them. And I took a video of there and a video of us in the hotel room going back. And then I had it set up, how I set them up in the cage. And then I took them to a reptile show, and I was selling them. I was kind of a story. Like, this is how I do this. They literally on Reptile Radio and on the forum says Gary just bought animals in New Jersey, sold them the same day at a reptile show. It's on a video. I don't care how stupid people think they are. Larry and BT are not dumb, but they use that to try to slam me. I don't know if they felt threatened by me. I don't know if that's how. I always say that people try to bring you down to their level when they can't reach who you are. And I honestly, I have no clue why the Bush League went after me, other than they couldn't handle the war room. Honestly, because I did have a click following. I did. I will admit, you'll see them pop up on Facebook, and they'll say war room. They'll just put war room. If I mention TR, war room, and that's all they talk about. Them people would defend me to the end anywhere I was at, but it's because I gave them freedom. That's what I did. And I mean, like Rich Fauna Classifieds. Rich, yeah, you know who Rich is?
I know exactly who he is. Yes.
I won't tell you the whole story because it's on the podcast.
They bashed him too.
I'm the only one ever to put Fauna Classifieds and Rich on the BOI. I made a post calling out his integrity. And me and Rich are friends today because of it. Because I won't tell you why. You can't search it anymore. It's gone. But Rich, if I emailed or called him, he would talk to me in a heartbeat. I seen him in Daytona, his last show. I got some animals from him.
I think they bashed Rich, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. I could be
about money. No, because he was about money. Yeah,
they bashed him because of I don't know if it was him though. I don't think it was him, about corn snakes
in the wild.
Yeah, that in the wild that were captive bred corn snakes, and they bashed them because they were like, "You're releasing these out into the wild," and
that was Rich.
That was Rich, and you're releasing problems from in your collection to the wild population, and they really went after him for that.
The Bush League, I was actually really excited about it, and I wanted to be part of it. And I thought, hey, this is for the new people to come out, and it was edgy and stuff, and they just didn't take to me. And I'm still the same as it is, but I was a jerk. I was known as a jerk and a-hole at reptile shows. My brother will tell you to this day, I'm not joking, to this day, that when me and him were partners, I was the a-hole. And now he says he took it over. But I said it on the podcast a little bit. I'd walk up to people's tables and be like, okay, I have jungle carpets. You have jungle carpets and ball. How much for everything? I want you out of here. I'll buy your whole table. What do you want? And I would buy the whole table, put it on my table, they go home. Then I would be the only one jungle carpet. That's what I used to do.
But I don't think there's anything wrong with that though.
And there's not. It was just like, and then if someone would come up to me, another vendor would come up to me and say, "Hey Gary, you're selling too high or you're selling too low," and I'm like, I don't go look at you guys' prices. I sell them for what I feel. I don't care.
I tell you, I got called out once, and it was so funny because I was at a reptile show and I had all my snakes out, and the table next to me had crested geckos on there. And this lady was new. I know who she is. I'm not going to mention her name because she doesn't live far from here. And she had these crested geckos. And she goes, "How much would you charge for all these crested geckos?" I said, "I don't know." I said, "Go over to that table there. You see that big crested gecko table over there?" They're like, "Yeah." I said, "Go over there and write down some prices and come back to me." She come back to me. I said, "Okay, all your ones here, charge him $5 less than what he is." And then she was like, "What?" And then people jumped all over me for that. Well, if you want to sell stuff, this guy's knowing you're not. You got.
I've been yelled at by. Now I do have my friends at the reptile shows that would never, but I've been yelled at by people because I give away animals, If
Yeah.
a little kid's sitting there with their parents and their parents are buying, I just did it at the last Green Bay show. The dad traded me 6 crested geckos for 2 of my leopard geckos. And they're all adult crested geckos. And but he took some nice higher end ones. And then he bought 4 more geckos. And then his son wanted one of my geckos. I think it was like $80. I forget. And he goes, I'm out of money, bud. And I'm like, can he have it? Can you house it? And he goes, well, yeah. I handed it to him. Then I had another pet gecko that was one of the NDBEs and had Eclipse and NDBE. A lady came up and was looking at it, and she was talking to me about it. And she was like, oh, I think we can put it in this cage and blah, blah, blah. I said, you can have it. And she just looked at me. I'm like, you can have it. It's yours.
Yeah.
And that aspect, I think, is lost with a lot of breeders. Did I lose money?
No.
I didn't lose no money. I started a kid out. He has
That's
this
what I was
gecko.
saying. You're bringing new people into the hobby that may not go there, and then they'll always remember. Remember the guy that gave me that? That's what changed my idea about this hobby. And
is Wally leaving? Oh no,
no. That's Frank. Frank, thanks for stopping in, bud. Now talking about a few other things here. You sent me a list of the few animals that you do that you work with right now. Now, tokay geckos. Marita just did a video with Miguel about tokay geckos. And now I've dealt with tokay geckos, but I dealt with them way before there was any morphs or anything, and it was just a plain ordinary tokay geckos. I know how hard they bite. I've seen some pretty nasty bites from. Where do you think the hobby's going with them? Because there are some amazing new colors coming out of them, and how do you feel about keeping them? And what's the price range on some of these things, if you don't mind me asking?
The price range, I'm not totally sure, but a captive bred tokay is going to be a lot more expensive than a wild caught one. I've been seeing them go from $70 to $120 for normals. Kevin really did a lot. Kevin with Nerd did a lot with tokay geckos. And he kind of said, hey, world, look, you can hold them. That's what he did. And he holds them, and I can't hold any of my adults. They don't like me. I can let them crawl on me, but if I grab them, I do. There, I'm done.
Then try to get them off your finger, right?
Yeah. The thing I'm starting to learn is tokay geckos don't like laying in dirt. And I can pull the eggs out and incubate them. They're like, oh, there's a hole over there you can't reach. I'm going to lay my eggs over in that hole in a log. And I'm like, oh, geez, they're in there now. What do I do? You know? I think the future is big for all the other geckos. Leopard or tokay geckos are hardy too. I've seen people have a tokay gecko go, it hasn't eaten in 3 months and it looks fine. I'm like, what? I mean, like, really? Here's something that people don't understand. No, I've seen tokay geckos in my collection eat crested gecko diet.
Well, that's interesting to know.
I was just trying it out, and I've seen them do it. Now, could they live off it? Probably not, but I've seen them do it. And I think they're more of you got to mist them more. I don't think people understand that. They think they're drier. I think you got to mist them more. They do really good in tubs with a solid top than a screen top. With air vents on the side, I think they do better with the cross instead of on top. That's a big difference. People understand if they got a screen top, it could be different than putting the vents on the side. It's a huge difference in animals.
Thank you, Wally. He had to step out he's got to run. He's very busy right now, you know, and I understand that. And Wally, yeah, you come back and watch the rest of the show.
Wally's amazing.
I love Wally.
Wally and Miles have been a really big support for me. And especially putting this podcast out, this podcast thing is it's going to shock a lot of people. The first one's nothing. The second one, we start getting deeper. And then I'm going to shock everyone that knows me is going to be shocked. And it's going to be different. But yeah, the tokay geckos, though. I mean, I love them. I love my helmeted gecko. I only got one, but I got my helmeted gecko.
Yeah, but that's a start, though. I'm sure you're going to get more than that. Now the satanic leaf tails. I find them when I look at the pictures of those, they just blow my mind because I think they are the coolest looking gecko ever. I just have never kept any, so that's one animal I could say I've never had in my collection. So I'm not too sure about the care on those.
They are one of the hardest geckos to keep,
Okay.
and it's not because of the care. I got to talk to Amanda in Wisconsin and see what she says because I lost my female. They're known just to drop dead, like
Huh.
literally. Um, you're supposed to not play with them. You're supposed to when you go in there to miss them down, not interrupt them. Oh, they haven't been fine tuned except for Amanda. Amanda's got a people said a green thumb with them. Um, I like literally, I'll never buy a wild caught one again.
Huh.
Like literally, you'll have them for 6 months. Like they're doing good, and you just go in there, one's dead. And they're eating and everything else. So things haven't been fine tuned with those yet. Um, if you're gonna get into leaf tails, mossies do pretty good. They're pretty hardy. Uh, and make sure you get captive bred. That's gonna help out a lot. You'll pay a lot more money, but a lot of time goes into leaf tails. A lot of time. Um, I should have mossies. I should. Satanics I won't have because I don't have a female.
That might be why I've never kept them because
Yeah,
they're hard. Yeah, because you look at the wild caught stuff, which is cheaper, and then
and then you got to worry about shipping them if you're
yeah,
or taking them to shows, and they stress out so easy. So, this is a tough gecko. It's a tough gecko to do, but I will have mossies. I should have mossies. Satanics. I'm hopefully someone to sell me an adult female, but that's going to be a hard thing for someone to sell me. So I'll probably end up buying a female baby.
now, here's a question for you. How do you feel about people that say a person who's got 300 geckos is a hoarder? You know?
If you're taking care of them, who cares?
Yeah, that's what I say too. But there are people that get all like, "No, you're hoarding. You can't have that many. You know, you shouldn't have that many."
I have well over
Oh,
that.
I'm sure. I'm just
But yeah, I say if you're giving them the care that they need, then you're not hoarding. Once you can't give them the care, then you're possibly hoarding. Hoarding, how can I put it? If someone goes into a garage and they got a ton of electronics, but it's very, very organized, I don't think they're a hoarder. But you take that same organization, just pile it up into a pile, they look like a hoarder. They got a problem. But if you go to someone's animals and they're all thin and they're all not being taken care of, dirty cages, stuff like this, that'd be a hoarder. But if you go down there and they're immaculate, who's to say they can't have that many?
yeah. I agree. I agree with you. Now, what's your opinion on gopher snake or bull snakes and gopher snakes and stuff like that? Now, I'm telling you, just this is just my opinion. I feel that they are a major part of the future of the reptile hobby because one, they come in so many morphs, and people buy. They're a decent sized animal. They get pretty big. Most of them do anyway, and people buy them up like they're just going out of style, and they're pretty hardy animals.
Oh, bull snakes and the gophers and pines are they're a different snake, and that's a good snake to start out with. A bull snake, if you want to get into that type of colubrid venomous, bull snakes are thinkers. You see this,
Mm-hmm.
um, but I agree with you. They eat. They're nice size. They're very easy to care for, and they calm down so well. I'll take an adult bull snake and hand it to a child. Here, hold it. We're good. Um, I think colubrids are a big bounce back because the price should start coming down again with more people doing it. When Rich got out of it and a few other big breeders got out of colubrids, the price went.
Way up. Yeah.
I mean, I remember buying corn snakes for $3 a piece, like
Yeah.
all morphs, and it was like, now I can't even touch a normal for $3.
Yeah.
But colubrids are underrated, very much so, and I think a lot of people are wanting them because they're not available like they used to be. So they're like they're rare, so I want them and I'm going to breed them, and that's going to bring down the prices, of course. But I think that I love bull snakes. In Wisconsin, I only can have morphs. I can't have normals and sell them. That's why I went to gophers. And they look similar, but gophers don't get
That's big.
near the size as bull snakes. But I remember in Ohio, Joel Rogeland, I talked about him on a podcast when I worked for him. He had a 6.5 foot bull snake. and this thing would eat anything. It didn't care what it was. Here, a guinea pig, whatever. A 6 month snake just eating a guinea pig. And I'm like, what the? Really? Garbage disposals.
I
I think your white side's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I know the Chinese buy the gopher snakes up as fast as you can produce them. You know, you got to be able to export them, but you know, the right person can sell 2,000 and 3,000 of them at a time.
If you're interested, when you produce them, I'll introduce you to Diegate. Di is a friend of mine. I don't know where my thing's at. Just a second. Here we go. Everyone knows Dave Kaufman.
Mm-hmm.
And this here is a big story. But Diegate signed this right there. Diegate is he's big over in Japan. He imports and exports out of Japan a lot. I met him through JMG Reptile. And really good friend of mine, really big spender. If you want to ship stuff over there when he's in the country, I'll hook you up, and he likes your stuff, he'll buy it. And yeah, I've had some of my old geckos before I even met Matt, and when I was just breeding with GMG, Diegate bought. I was selling, like Bell Enigmas and Snow Bell Enigmas and stuff like that to him for really, really good money. And Diegate's is awesome people. There's some people who won't like him, but I like him.
Yeah. Well, there's always people that don't like everybody for some reason. There's always somebody out there who's like, oh, don't deal with this person because of this. But, my thoughts are I give everybody a chance and we go from there. Even if you did give me a hard time about something, I'd still give you a chance. Because, we need to stick together because if you're divided, that's when the hobby's going to run into trouble.
And that's it. Even though these people, some people don't like me, I'll never speak bad of them. And I know secrets of some of them, and I'm not going to go out and put it out there. If they want to put it out, they can put it out. I just won't do what they've done to me. Two wrongs don't make a right.
No, I have to agree. There's people that I've seen do some pretty bad things, and I'm like, well, you do your thing, I'll do mine, but I won't say nothing bad about you.
Mr. J has a question. It says something about is that hybrids?
Yes, hybrids.
It matters what kind of hybrid it is. And venomous gaboons and rhinoceros vipers, they breed in wild. So that's not that big a deal. I used to have Mojave crossed with westerns rattlesnakes. That was pretty dangerous when I got rid of those. I believe they went to Jim Harrison. I'd have to email Jim to see if I gave them to him. But the stuff that doesn't happen in the wild, I don't agree with it because we don't know what it does. Like the ball python to Burmese python, was it?
Yeah. And then they do the berm to the retic, which don't happen in the wild either. So
yeah, I don't agree with those. Are they cool looking animals? Yeah. But that's us playing God again. It's like, what could we do to make money? There's no other reason behind it, in my opinion, other than cash. I guess we all breed animals for cash, so I'm not gonna lie there. But like the green tree python, was it a green tree python and carpet? Yeah, the carpet pythons and green tree. I'm going to tell you this. I'm a purist when it comes to carpet pythons. It was one of the very first animals I produced. And Australia is not opened up. So we're not getting any new blood.
Nope.
So these people doing this type of stuff is really, really hurting the hobby, in my opinion. And now you're going to say, how did the albino carpet come out? That's a story for another day. But
it's like try to find a pure diamond python.
It's next to impossible.
Yeah, because
I'm a total purist. I love genetics. Wally can attest to this, and Miles. I remember everything. I don't know why. I just the genetics just go in me, and I was at one time look at it and tell you, oh, that's a Nicaraguan boa. That's just a Central American. I can tell by looking at this is a Sonoran boa. They're all BCI. Every single one of them BCI, but the localities are different. We were some of the first people to produce pure Sonoran hypos, John and I. We've had pure Sonoran hypos. We weren't the first. We were in beginning stages back in 12, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Lots of cool stuff.
Somebody just pulled up out here. I was looking at my daughter. She pulled up, so she'll be coming in a minute. So, but yeah, I have to agree that even with the gopher snakes and the pine snakes and all that, there are pure form localities that are different. You can look at them and see they're not like the ones even 20 miles down the road. They look a little different.
It's almost the same thing with gray bandits, gray bandit king.
Oh yeah, you can drive right down the road and find different ones.
Yeah,
that
and
look different.
You guys want to see some sticklers? Gray banded king snake breeders.
Oh yeah.
Oh, they're like, where was this one located? What's this location? It could be just a.
I'll go get mom. Yeah, they got gray banded king snakes are cool. I like them. Hatching them out, getting them to eat is a different story. But yeah, they could be sticklers when it comes to. You know, oh no, you don't do this. Well, that's like back in the day when they first started breeding colubrids, like your king snakes and your milk snakes and all. It took somebody to think, well, I can't get them to breed in captivity, but when I go catch a wild one, I can bring it in and it'll breed.
Yep.
They figure out, well, let's cool them over the winter. And they wouldn't tell nobody. And when they figured it out, they didn't tell nobody right away. They kept it all a secret. They didn't want nobody to know nothing.
The first time anyone produces something, they don't want the secret out. Just like me, when I did certain things, I didn't let the secret out until later, after I knew it was right, and then I had it down. Some of the stuff I've done in this podcast, you guys are going to be like, "Wait, that was you?" No, seriously, that's what's going to be. I let other people take the glory. It didn't matter to me so much to be the first in the world to do something. No. It didn't do anything for me. The first time I ever did produce something that was first in the world, and I did brag about it, was the white and yellow Super Snow Bell Albino. I was the first to produce those, and I wanted to name it Side Effect, but it didn't click because it was a side effect going after the radar version.
Yeah, and
I wanted to name it Side Effect, and it just didn't click. So I was like, whatever.
Well, I'm going to have to get you on again for sure.
Yeah, I'm game. Anytime. I don't care. Just let me know a few days ahead of time. We'll get it done.
Because I got so many more questions, but I got to get my wife from work here in a few minutes.
Let her walk.
And let her walk. Yeah, right. And does anybody have any final questions for Gary or anything like that?
The last question. I can't say because there's a help thing in front of it.
Oh, it just says last question for me is thoughts in closing or cloning. Oh, that's it. I got
it. Nope. I won't mess with that stuff. No cloning for me.
Yeah. What was I was going to ask you something else, but I don't remember. Marita said Joseph Lazo developed a lot of cooling techniques. I don't know for what. I know I've seen some pretty interesting cooling techniques of people use cooling stuff in refrigerators even.
I've seen that done with venomous so they can handle them on video.
Oh.
Yeah.
I've seen them do a lot of crazy stuff just by, CO2, knocking them out a little bit, slows them way down.
And then they get it back and they're fast again.
Yeah, then you're in trouble.
I don't cool any of my animals. I don't cool nothing.
Mm-mm. You don't cool the breed or nothing?
Nope. Nope. I might end up starting to do it with the leaf tails and stuff, but I don't think because they're basically room temp anyway.
Yeah, I never cooled geckos. I only cooled geckos when I bred them to stop them from, because if you cool them a little bit, then they'll stop laying eggs. But I didn't do it for breeding purposes. Now with the colubrids I do, but some people, they don't even do that. It's like a hit or miss then, I guess.
I think colubrids is a little more important, but I've seen people do it, and I've seen people breed ball pythons without cooling too.
Yeah,
Get the ultrasound out, and then there's people that don't need it. And
I never cooled my ball pythons either. I just left them at the same temperature year round. And then at a certain time, I would just start introducing the male. They do their thing. So, because you get over in Africa over there where they're at, West Africa, it doesn't really cool that much over there. So, anyway, we're going to end this here, and I will have you back on for sure. But hang on, don't go nowhere, because when I end this, we should still be in the room together.
Okay.
On the other thing. So, all right, guys, thank you and peace out.